Hello guys, today I did another thing that I usually do as a Magic the Gathering fan. I think something that less people do aside from reading the articles is that I listened to Mark Rosewater's podcast, Magic the Gathering Drive to Work on Spotify. And if, well, recently I haven't listened much to it, but I do listen from time to time. Today, on the bus commute to work, I listened to this one, number 1357, Aether Revolt. So, this is part of his series about talking about every magic expansion. This is Aether Revolt is the second set in the Kaladesh block. Now, Kaladesh has been renamed to Avishkar, but when I use the word Kaladesh here, I refer either to the first set or the block. So in the Kaladesh block, which was the first, talking, I guess what I should talk about is that, well, the notable things here narratively is that it was actually teased about, or what was, I forgot the term he used, but it was seeded in core set Magic Origins as the plane that Chandra, a famous or a well-known character in Magic the Gathering, was from. And I remember that reading from the articles that basically the the concepts for this plane would be steampunk India, and to twist it a bit, instead of being dark and gritty steampunk, they made it more of a solar punk, more bright and cheerful type of vibe. Now, so that's the narrative, the plane, the world building. In the larger arc, it served as the place where, because this is part of the Bolas arc, the place where Nicol Bolas would send Tezzeret to get the I forgot what it was called, but damn. Oh, okay, you're right, the planar bridge. So that was the contribution, or I guess the role that Kaladesh had in the larger Bolas arc is that Tezzeret stole Rashmi's portal invention, the planar bridge, which is basically a way for them to transport non-organic objects across the plane, which would later be how they teleported or transported the Eternals, because they, through Lazotep um, plating, they become non-organic. Although I don't know how this was a plan, because Rashmi only invented this recently, whereas the Eternal Army in Amonkhet needed a really long time to like build up. Anyway, whatever. But speaking about the story itself, the Tezzeret um, posed as a councilman. So the conflict here, well, in the first set, which is Kaladesh, it revolved around an inventor fair and kind of delved into the world and how it's full of inventors and artificers, uh, like a wave of like inventions that are all fueled by ether, which I think in the within the world is like a relatively recent technology that kind of made an economic and technological boom, and it also kind of gave background to Chandra's backstory. She thought that her parents had died, and then she came back and found out that her mom was alive. So the mechanics in Kaladesh were very interesting. There was improvise, vehicles, and energy, and probably something. Am I forgetting something? Anyway, and then this was the time when there were two set blocks. This was the second block. Sorry, two set block. So yeah, this is the second set in the Kaladesh block, which is either revolt. If Kaladesh was a large set, this was a small set, and so narratively, they went from the Inventor's Fair, which was exploration, into kind of a bright and vibrant energy of inventiveness, to where all steampunk, cyberpunk, or punk genres go to, kind of um, anti-authoritarian conflict. So we go into either revolt. Story-wise, they confiscated all of the inventions from the inventors fair, and then the inventors fight back to reclaim their freedoms, etc., etc. The mechanics went from, I think they added improvise and revolt. So improvise was to kind of continue the theme of inventiveness. So improvise is convoke for artifacts, and I think that's kind of straightforward artifact um, centric mechanic that doesn't necessarily need to be on artifacts. And revolt, which was a morbid like mechanic that focused on permanence leaving the battlefield instead of dying. So I guess this a revolt trigger is basically like, the way I understood it is, if something is taken away from you, then the things with revolt are triggered into doing revolt abilities or mechanics. They're like spurned into action for the revolt. Personally, I didn't feel like it really communicated a revolt vibe. But so that and they also continued the themes of energy and vehicles, which is crew. I think those themes were complex, but well, at least the vehicles garnered a lot of widespread like, such that vehicles became a deciduous mechanic. Meanwhile, energy, although complex, I think garnered enough like as well, such that it became modern, or they reintroduced it in Modern Horizons 3. It became a modern powerhouse archetype or theme. Sorry, theme maybe. Um, yeah, so I remember when they introduced Kaladesh block, um, there was two decks in standard that used them. So Mardu vehicles, because I think the vehicles were overpowered. This was the introduction of vehicles. And Timur energy, because again, overpowered. I think there was a lot of energy production in green, blue, and then red had ways of like converting that into damage. Meanwhile, Mardu vehicles, um, they found really cheap and efficient ways to crew vehicles, which were efficient creatures for their cost. Um, Overall, I think I like the mechanics, but I wish they were a bit more complex or more interesting. Uh, I really hope for a return to Avishkar. I guess they did through Aether Drift, but it wasn't really a focus on Aether Drift. It's funny to think that Aether Drift uh, crammed crammed three planes into it, and they kind of gave a background blurb on the three planes that were really heavily politically complex, because Avishkar had the tension of the old the Indigo Revolution and the post-Phyrexian invasion. They were the revamped politically Council of Rebuilding. I mean, consulate efforts into rebuilding, and they welcomed immigrants from other planes. So I mean, you don't wanna go into that too much, but because it's a really real political topic nowadays. Um, but I think, well, of course, Avishkar in this fantasy fictional optimistic world, um, we don't. I guess Wizards doesn't necessarily want to explore anti-immigration anti-immigration Avishkar. But I'm glad that it's a positive thing in this world. I mean, like that they're really welcoming interplanar relations. Though I don't think it was done well in Aether Drift. Yeah, so yeah, Avishkar seems to be doing well. Amonkhet is also seems to be doing well. There's the rebuilding of a city and the return of, well, not return. Um, oh, I guess now I'm talking about Aether Drift. It's the the topic got away from me. I guess I'll just finish it with yeah, I like listening to the podcasts, and I guess this is how I kind of think about stuff. All right, thank you for listening. If you did listen, goodbye.